And now the Bank of Ghana has withdrawn foreign exchange support to customers for the importation of certain non-critical or essential goods. Joy Business, however, understands that the withdrawal of the FX support for the importation of these non-essential goods took effect in the past 3 weeks. The goods affected include rice, poultry, vegetable oils, toothpicks, pasta, fruit juice, bottled water, and ceramic tiles as well. Well, fortunately, we've been joined by Joy Business's George Weafe, who's joining us in studio with more details on this. George, so why is the BoG taking this decision?
Well, still, we don't have any official communication from the Bank of Ghana with respect to this action. But if you could cast your mind back when the president gave his address on what the government is trying to do to stabilize things for it. There was a hint that BoG will be taking some action. And for those who are making an intelligent guess, or if you engage those who are in the banking industry, because we also understand that there has been communication to the commercial banks that going forward, we can't extend support to you for these particular goods. It doesn't mean that BoG has directed these banks that do not lend.
Right.
But I think that what the Bank of Ghana, again, engaging those in the industry and those who have been working in the Bank of Ghana, but though not official communication from the Bank of Ghana, what we understand is that it's about managing our current reserves. You don't know when, that's now as we speak right now with our current position, we are looking forward to having an IMF program to boost our reserves.
Right.
And therefore now Ghana can go to the international market to raise money. So whatever position that you are right now. So
this is more or less a stopgap measure for us. But we're not too certain if that's the official position.
Yeah, but if you engage the industry persons and those at the bank, you get the measure that it's part of the measures to manage our international reserves to ensure that it doesn't deplete so quickly. Because don't forget that our current position, we are waiting to get a fund program that we are going to get some support from the IMF to help with our balance of payment needs. Basically, the Bank of Ghana providing support for these commercial banks to support certain items that are coming in. And the bank is saying that going forward, they would give funding to items that are seen as very, very critical, like pharmaceutical products, medical supplies, medicine, and petroleum products as well.
I'm just worried as to why we're not including, for instance, rice. If you look at demand figures, it's quite clear that this is a staple that we rely on so much. Classifying it as non-essential could pose some dangers to the market.
The argument you get from them is that it appears that there is still enough of some of these local rice, and even within our market that has already been brought in. Okay. And so this is more of support for fresh import. And this is not a directive to the commercial banks that do not fund. This is, as far as the Bank of Ghana is concerned, when it comes to what the auctions that they do, when it comes to giving cover or advancing dollar support to the commercial banks to on-lend to some of these institutions, they are now trying to restrict themselves to certain things they deem as essential. If tomorrow you are in the rice business, you're in the business where you import VOS, water into the country. I mean, we are importing bottled mineral water into this country, and you bring in every month about 10 containers of it. If you can go to Bank A or go to the open market and get dollars or LCs to support, you can go ahead. But the Bank of Ghana, when it comes to us in terms of the auctioning of our dollars and all those things, we will limit the support that we give to you as a company and all the rest. And it tells you that it's a more of a management strategy that since your inflows are dwindling, you want to make sure that whatever that you have is managed strategically, because the last thing that you want is to get to the level where you cannot get access to dollars to import petroleum products. You cannot get access to import critical medical supplies. But some would also raise issues as well. At the time that we are getting into the Christmas season, most people consumption or what they consume are primarily imported stuff. If you limit the support, are the commercial banks in the position right now to support companies that are in the business of importing rice, importing vegetable oil? And what could be the impact of this funding challenge for those who are into this business and how that would impact on prices of these items on the open market.
Okay, then. But George, are we getting a sense of the outlook as to how long this may last, and if we are going to see a return?
That's something that we are not getting any official communication. So this is just a temporary measure. And if what we are getting from government is that all other things being equal, they could close a staff agreement by before the end of this year. And maybe we could get the inflows coming in from the first quarter of next year. Maybe this might be just from now to the end of the year, and that things could get maybe normal in the first quarter of next year.
Right. George, just hold on. Let's get the reaction of some industry players. John Awuni is executive member of the Food and Beverages Importers Association of Ghana. John, thank you for your time. How are you reacting to this? And of course, from our side, we're not able to independently verify if there's a strict enforcement or perhaps order coming through from the central bank to all of the commercial banks that, well, don't give priority to non-essential items. But that's the general feedback from members within the industry. As the Association of Food and Beverages, do you also share the same concern that that's taking off, the fact that priority is not being given to non-essential products and its importation?
Well, thank you very much. And good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. We have also picked up that information that the Bank of Ghana has given strict orders to commercial banks to ensure that they do not supply dollars to people who import rice, poultry, ceramic products, tires, ceramic products, toothpick, water, and the like. That's what we have picked up. And for me, as a development economist, as an expert in the industry, as a consultant, as a researcher over the past over 20 years, I would say that on the face value, it is a very good policy in the sense that we are in very difficult and critical times. Indeed, even we are not even difficult and critical times. To promote local production or to promote the consumption of locally produced goods is a very good thing. No country and no family can continue to rely on outside supply. So for me, in terms of economics, that is right. But I would say that the timing is wrong. I would say that the decision has not been formulated based on great information. What I know on the ground, and I do a lot of research. I speak to farmers daily. I speak to maize farmers. I speak to poultry producers. I am on various business platforms, and so I know what is happening. So I would say that for me, if they were to talk about we are restricting the importation of water, that makes sense. That for me, yes, all of us from time to time, I have imported water to my house to drink, but I don't think that it makes any lot of sense to bring in water from another country. It's just, it doesn't make sense. In terms of tiles, in my research, I know we produce a lot of tiles in the country. Toothpick, pasta, and the like, you can restrict that, but you cannot clearly classify rice, poultry, and vegetable oil or general cooking oil as non.
What's your fear? What's your fear generally? That we're not sufficient? Is that the argument you're making?
The argument is that clearly we have not prepared for this as a country, and that is a fact. You have Joy FM in the last week. You ran stories, and I clearly listened to it, where the president of the Ghana Rice Professional Body. I was the president of that body for I think for 4 years. I listened to him, and I was very interested in the story. And the man lamented the same story that I talked about and lamented about when I was the president in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, that the industry lacks support. It lacks government support. I again also listened to the president of or the chairman of the Ghana Poultry Producers Association. And he said on your station that if the government doesn't take care, the 2% that we are producing locally will eventually collapse, and it will be that we will be importing 100%. If these people just spoke last week, and also my checks on the ground, I have one of the executives and a big poultry producer just by me. They returned from Morocco. And indeed, he gave me a story that was quite embarrassing. He said, in fact, the Moroccan government, at a point in their meeting, asked the president that, what is the total consumption of poultry in Ghana? And the president couldn't answer, not due to no fault of his. An individual doesn't do census. So as we speak now, my brother, we don't know how many goats we have in this country. We don't know how many cows we produce in this country. We don't know how many fowls or whatever we produce in this country. As we speak now, we have no data on these things. Day-old chickens, we don't have. We are currently importing day-old chickens from Belgium, day-old chickens from Morocco. And indeed, the farmers are not even getting enough. If you speak to poultry producers, they will tell you that, yes, the policy is a good policy, but we are not prepared. Yesterday, I was discussing with one of the executives of the poultry producers, and he told me that we are currently selling a bird at 85 cedis, a bird of about 1.5 to 3 kilos at 85 cedis. By December, we'll be selling at 150 cedis. Question is, my brother, can you afford it for your house throughout the week, throughout the month? A bed of about 1.5 or 3 kilos on the average at 150 Ghana cedis. As we speak now, we are selling local rice at 600 cedis for 50 kg. Imported rice is about 900 cedis. As we speak now, we are selling at the farm gate soya beans, 500 Ghana cedis for 85 kg. We are selling maize, over 300 Ghana cedis, and this is just harvesting season I'm talking about.
Okay, we'll talk about some of the policy interventions we're beginning to see so far, but I just want to take thoughts of George Yafe on the issue about data, the fact that we don't have sufficient data. It's a genuine concern, isn't it? And that may cripple this exercise.
I mean, it's more of a double-edged decision that the BoG has taken. Yes, you need to manage your reserves, good one, but also, just like what he's saying, we are just waiting to see how this could hit the market badly, or maybe it will be good for us, because the fact remains that we need to take measures to manage our reserves. But again, what could be the possible impact of this if somebody who is bringing in rice can no longer get support from BoG? But again, as far as I'm concerned, there isn't a directive to the banks or the commercial banks that do not provide.
What do you want to believe?
No. I'm saying that for the fact that no. What BoG is saying is that they cannot provide support for the importation of certain things. So normally the commercial banks fall on BoG for dollar support through auctions and other programs. So Bank of Ghana is saying that going forward, we will support certain importation of goods that are deemed as essential in these times. Petroleum products, medical products, and all the rest. Right. If you're bringing in Voss mineral water, if you're bringing in
something out of rice, luxury.
Luxury is debatable. Anyway, right. A Voss that is luxury for you is not luxury for someone like Fred Smith. Right. You understand me? Right. So it's a debatable issue here. So the BoG is saying that we will not extend cover for some of these items. That doesn't stop you from going to a bank B or Z if that bank is in a position.
So once the bank is willing to support you,
the commercial banks is
fair enough.
But some are saying that everybody wants to fall on the Bank of Ghana as a lender of last resort. So even if you have dollars as a bank right now, a commercial bank, you want to hold on to it and rather fall on BoG for support. Right. So what it could happen with this is that if it's going to cost them more, they're going to pass on that cost to you. Yeah. There's an argument about whether the local market also has the capacity in terms of vegetable oil, in terms of the one that is produced locally. Do we produce enough to meet the local needs, or is still complemented by what we import? And at the time when we're going to Christmas, where, funny enough, when it's Christmas, people want to just change their preference that, oh, I also want to, celebrate myself a little bit, go in for foreign products and all the rest for the parties and all the rest. So it could work, it's going to work, but there's a negative impact of this on the general price of goods and services and the availability of certain products on the market as well.
And John, we're beginning to see, for instance, interventions from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. The policy about the PFJ market, you've seen that, for instance, where, of course, our government is trying to intervene, deal with the transport hurdles and bits down the cost. Is that not working for you as members of the Food and Beverage Importers Association?
Not as I'm speaking, I speak in the interest of the nation and as an expert in the industry. So I am not speaking basically in the interest of food and beverage that has to do with the business. That is very myopic. That would be very myopic, and that would be very greedy. We are talking about national interest. I'm talking about what will happen to my driver, what will happen to my secretary, what will happen to those down there, what will happen to the teacher whose salary is 2,000 cedis. You see, the interventions you're talking about that the Minister of Agri has done, those are not interventions. You shouldn't consider that as intervention.
You don't see that as a policy measure? In fact, we've seen the mad rush, for instance, for some of the items they've put on display.
No, that is not a sustainable intervention. Like, you see, if you are talking about an intervention, look, what we should have been looking at is that, yes, we would have looked back 2 years ago and said that, listen, in 2022, or maybe we started thinking about this like 2019, 2018, and said by 2022 this time, we are going to restrict imports of poultry and ABCD products. In view of that, we are going to lay a foundation for that. We want to gather data on total imports. We want to gather data on total local production. And so if we restrict imports by 30%, what size of land do we require to be able to produce rice, to be able to compensate for that shortage that will be created? If we restrict poultry by 50%, how many birds and what kind of farmers and all that? You need to prepare all those grounds. You need to prepare your irrigation systems. You need to build up a buffer stock. You need to be able to have a good data. As it is now, I am saying that we are cooking food. It's like cooking food in your house, but you don't know the number of mouths you are going to feed. And that is very, very dangerous. Yes, it may sound as very good, but you cannot seem to be cooking food when you don't know how many mouths you are going to feed. That is what we are doing now. We don't know what kind of level of shortage we are creating in the country. If there's the massive shortage we are going to create now, as it is now, it is Harmattan season in the north. The north happen to be the food basket of the country. How are we going to produce rice in the next 2-3 months to fill in any shortage that will be created? There are no day-old chickens in the country. There are no, in fact, indeed, people have even slaughtered their layers and sold out. So how are you going to produce in the next 3-4 weeks or import day-old chickens and distribute to all farmers? And then now they can grow them up for about 8 weeks and then slaughter them and supply to the market. What have we done as a country? The foundation has not been laid, and I am emphasizing on that. If you look at it, the economic policy is good. Indeed, total ban of imports is good. And I have always said this over the years. No rice seller or no importer has any covenant with any supplier abroad that I will not sell local rice. I am going to sell only imported rice. If you want, business is business. Whether the profit is from imported rice or imported chicken or local chicken, your profit is profit. So indeed, if you make these goods readily available, the importers will shift to that. And indeed, it makes it more convenient, because if the importer buys goods from locally, you have nothing to do with foreign exchange, foreign exchange fluctuations. If the importer buys goods locally, there are certain tax exemptions that you may not do. I started the local rice project in this country in 2001. I went around the entire country galvanizing farmers to produce locally produced rice. I imported seeds for local farmers, indeed to the extent that there were seeds that were named after me in Domwenya. I brought in a lot of investors into the country, indeed for rice and even for sugar. So I am in all for that. And no country, like I have said before, you cannot rely on external support. If we had put our house in order at this point in time, we would not have been crying about the fact that we are restricting supply and whatever not. Automatically, you would have shifted to the local supply. But what I want to point out is that our local supply is subject to seasonality. This is farming season. This is harvesting season. So you can find maize in the market. You can find granite in the market. You can find soya bean in the market. You can find rice in the market. But come after the harvesting season, these things are going to go out of stock. And listen to this. To talk about preparation, if you go send your cameras to Tamale, you'll find that people from the Sahelian countries, from Burkina Faso, from Mali, from Niger, indeed, people from even our neighbors, Nigeria, they are coming with trucks to the farm gates and they are loading soya beans, they are loading maize, they are loading beans, they are loading rice out of the country.
All right, John.
The rice we already have enough in the country. How can you now allow them to be taking these things out? So these things have not been done. And my advice to the government is that it is a good thing. We are in a very critical time. We are in a very difficult time. We all acknowledge that. But let us also consider the ordinary consumer. Let us also consider the rate of inflation that has already been created. That 2016 we had local rice sold at 70 cedis for 50 kg. Today it is sold at 600 cedis. That 2016 we had imported rice sold at 150. Hello?
Oh, yes, just land on that point for me.
At 2016 we had imported rice at 150 cedis. Today we are selling about 650, 700 cedis. How much does the ordinary Ghanaian earn? So when you do this, you may even increase the rate of corruption at the ministries because people will have to find survival means. The current situation is not adequate for us to embark on that. Even we are short of dollars at the banking level, we should not announce this. The banks on the silent can manage this. Otherwise, we are going to create a serious panic in the market and prices of goods, whether local or imported, will go further than they have gone.
And that's a man passionate about his industry. John Awuni, we're grateful for your time. George, let's wrap up. Of course, the issues about forex is not the only raft of measures the president announced, which means that going forward, we're likely to see some more policy measures.
When you follow the presentation and later when Kojo Opono spoke on our program PM Express, you realize that in the coming days, we're having some of the ministers coming out to give more details about all these things. So those things will be I think that time will tell whether the Bank of Ghana will be vindicated or they will get it wrong. But as just like trying to clarify, since there hasn't been any official communication from the Bank of Ghana. We need to wait. What I can say is that Bank of Ghana is limiting supply of dollars to the commercial banks when it comes to these imports. Nobody has told any commercial bank that don't lend to any institution that is doing so. For instance, as I said, if you are into bringing in mineral water out, you can still go to your bank A and demand that
just try.
You provide LCs to aid your import. What Bank of Ghana is trying to do is to manage what they have in terms of their reserves
to give priority much more.
We don't lose out when it comes to bringing in petroleum products, medical supplies,
and other essential.
These are what they call essential things. So that is it. Then let's see. Time will tell whether they got it wrong.
All right then.
Or they got it right.
George, I'm grateful. And of course.